Hello everybody, it's me Chris at Pro-Am for our Friday chat as usual. This week, something again I'm going to say a little bit different. I've skirted on this subject quite a few times, and every week I get one or two people asking advice on setting up their own brand or their own company. How do they go about it? Is it worth doing? What do I suggest? Which countries are the best? Lots of questions. This week I've had 3 people ask me about it. Yesterday I had a message chat with a young chap called Brandon, and I've tried to point him in the right direction, but it probably sounds more as if I'm trying to put people off. And it's not about competition. Competition's healthy. If you buy crappy gloves from Pakistan, have your logo put on them and put them out there at a mid-range price, and they're not as good as our cheap end gloves, it does me a favour, to be honest. So it just goes to show the good value for money and the excellent quality that we produce. So it isn't that side of it. What it is, as you might have guessed, I hate people being ripped off. That's my biggest thing. That's why I say don't buy this brand, don't buy that brand. They're just full of advertising and the cheap rubbish. And 9 times out of 10 I'm proven right. Now, we don't just sell boxing gloves. Obviously we sell head guards, punch bags, etc. We sell the whole range. We sell kits, shorts, boots, semi-clothing type, t-shirts and tracksuits. Not everything is imported. I would say at least half of our stuff is UK made. You can't just have one supplier making everything for you. It is possible, but it'd be difficult to do. We've learnt this in 30 years. And I'll start with what we have made in the UK. You've seen our punch bags. I've worked with the same chap, he's a friend now basically, for almost a full 30 years we've been going. He makes punch bags. He's a UK based company. He has probably the only filling machine to fill the bags properly, and the bags he produces for us, we work together. Sometimes I'll design something different, and we work hand in hand. He makes an awful lot for me. He doesn't just make punch bags, he'll do ring skirts, rope covers, corner pads. He does quite a bit, and like I say, we've happily worked together for almost a full 30 years I've been in business. So that's one thing that we get that's UK made and supplied. Obviously I have a lady working for me, she makes all the custom kits. As you can see, these are all handmade to measure. We're the original ones who do this. Other companies basically copy what we do. Some actually started off working for us and then decided to go out on their own. But these are all UK made, and they're made locally as well. So we keep local businesses in work too. So all this kind of stuff is handmade here in the UK with UK supplied materials. Now, other things we do like the clothing side, like the hoodies and things like that. Now they're probably sourced abroad, but we buy them in the UK. It's cheaper and it's more reliable, and I'll tell you for why. The main reason being, the companies that supply the gloves and things in the Sialkot, Pakistan, they do everything sports wise, from hockey sticks, footballs, gridiron helmets, as well as boxing gear. They're like jack of all trades, master of none, we call them. A lot of them do printing on hoodies, t-shirts, tracksuits, etc. The quality is pretty rough. It's pretty rough. They don't have modern materials. If you ask them to make something more modern material, you won't get it. It's simple as that. You will not get it. They'll tell you that, if they're honest, they'll tell you we don't do that, it's Chinese material. Now, the other problem we have with the sports clothing factories in Pakistan is the sizing is generally way off. You tell them, you can give them a sizing chart, you can tell them the sizes, and when they come, they'll be way off. They'll either be all 28 inches in the waist, including the extra large. Maybe the extra small kid size will be a 26. The vests will be yay long and no good to man the beast, and trust me, we still get this problem to this date. If my factory is too busy making our gloves and head guards, rather than pull them off that, I'll try and find a small factory sometimes to make the custom kits we do for boxing clubs. I'll give you an example. Now this one was done by our factory. It's an old one. It's so you can see nice shorts with the club's logo on, etc., and the sponsor, and the vest, you know, to match. And we do quite well with these. We're reasonably priced. We include all the printing on them, as long as you don't go mad, you know, take the mick. The retail now at about £45 per kit. So your average amateur boxing club will pay about £450 to £750 for a few sets in the different team colours. So that's one thing. Now we've had loads come back in the past. Like I say, the sizes are so far off that it's a joke. And the inherent problem we have with these factories over there is, if you say to them you didn't follow the size chart, they're not worth a carrot, you need to replace them, they won't. It's not their fault. They do never accept responsibility for mistakes. Now obviously when we send a pattern over, we'll say obviously like 4.5 inch waistband, this length, this width, etc. And you get things like this turn up. As you can see, this is a size medium, so it probably fit in the waist, but it probably come down to below your knees in the length. And then when you see this extra small sample that's fitting, you can see the waistband is nowhere near the 4.5 inches that we've asked. Again, this isn't their fault. They've done it exactly as you sent it, they say. So that's another. So you've got the length and the waistband is not worth having. Then we'll go on to another problem we get with them. So this time they've made the waistband the right size-ish. They've got the size of the shorts-ish. And there's no elastic in the waistband. How they've managed that, I'll never know. But this is constantly, this will go backwards and forwards, and this is all you'll get when you say, where's the elastic in the waistband? Oh, we followed the pattern perfectly. It's not our fault. So basically, you're just throwing money away. So again, that's another problem with the hoodies, the tracksuits, you know, the kits. Unless you've got a supplier that you 100% know. Now lucky for us, our factory, they've expanded, they built a new factory, and I can give them orders for kits now, and it doesn't take them away from making our gloves and things. So I'm lucky. I'm extremely lucky. I've had them factory working for me for years. It took me a long time to find them. People ask me, can I share the factory's name that makes our stuff? Now whether they're being genuine and thinking they're going to get our stuff with their logo on, or that doesn't happen. They're my designs. The factory are dead honest. They will tell anybody who calls them they're not our designs. They belong to Pro-Am Boxing. We're not allowed to share anything. We won't steal off them basically, which some companies do, and I'll go into that. Now, so my problem's solved. The people who make them for me have expanded, and they've plenty of room now and time to make the kits for me as well. So I'm not worried anymore. I'm not going to these little companies anymore saying, can you make this kit for me quick? It doesn't work. So the clothing side, that side of it was sorted. We've got UK made to measure stuff if you want your own stuff. My factory now makes all the kits, and we don't buy from any independent companies because use my 30 years of experience, they're a waste of bloody time. The rest of our clothing now we have made in China. Now again, it's hard to find the right place in China. All the top sports companies are buying out of the Far East, not just China, some Vietnam, Cambodia, all within that area. Now we do tracksuits. Clubs ring up and they go, yeah, I need a black tracksuit, a blue tracksuit with our logo on, etc. Now we've started doing that. We've sourced them in China. We do two kinds. We do a standard type polyester, full zip with the hood and the pants to match. They'll be coming in for the new season. And we do the more modern kind, which is, I can just show you. It's like this lycra type material, as you can see with this one. They come in various colours, same pattern, full zip, pants to match. I've got the pants on as well, I can't see them. These are a little bit more expensive because they're more modern materials. When we get them, the sizes are bang on, they're great. They wash well, they don't shrink in the wash, they're exactly what you need. The other problem you get with the cheap, poor quality stuff from Selcott is it shrinks in the wash. Trust me, does it shrink. Over the last few years we've tried to get tracksuits and hoodies and little quarter zip tops, everything like that, and they look nice when they come, they're nice and fluffy as everything else is when it's brand new. First thing we do is take it home and wash the samples. Obviously I'll get stuff that's my size as a sample so I can try it on and see how it fits. We got them in, I tried them on, they fit me okay, throw them in the washing machine and they shrink by 2 sizes. So me being a bit of a fatty now, I take an extra large and they shrink to about a medium. So that's the other thing with the cheap materials. So anybody who's obviously anything to do with boxing on social media, I get 20 messages every day on Instagram, emails, on my personal emails, on Facebook, on YouTube. It's impossible. Just one city cannot have that many companies. And as I've always say when I've touched on this subject, if there's 1,000 manufacturers in Selcott, less than 5 are worth dealing with. The rest are just either just getting into it, they're just going to take your money and run, which we have had. Even in the last few years we've had one guy promise us the earth, took the money and ghosted us. So we've lost a couple of £1,000 that way. Another thing I've had that I tell people is, I have people, UK amateur boxing coaches, etc. They'll ring me up and they go, do you work with this company? And I'll say, no, never heard of them. Or I could say, oh yeah, they sent us some samples a few years ago. They then say, oh yeah, he told me he makes all your gloves and stuff and we make them exactly the same but put our logo on. So I said, he sent us some lovely pictures and he sent us a couple of samples over that were alright, considering we were going to pay £15 a pair for the gloves. So I sent him £10,000 and 5-6 weeks later I got the delivery at my address, 20 boxes of gloves and headgear and pads. He said when I opened them, he said I burst into tears. He said they were appalling, they were absolute rubbish. I've been ripped off. I phoned the guy up and he's just said, oh well, I sent you and made you what you asked for. So you're never going to get a refund basically, and you've got no recourse either. So that fella's just threw £10,000 down the thing. And I'm saying to him, this happens all the time, never believe everything you say. Another red flag I always have, whenever they send me a link to their site or what they sell on Instagram, if I see stuff like this and you see Venom, Winning, Grant, none of that stuff is made in Pakistan. So you're going to get ripped off. The quality ain't going to be there. As you can see with this one, it's a lovely colour. I'm not sure if Winning do them colours, but it fades on the punch area after a few weeks. I've opened this one up to show you as well. What these are made of is a cheap sponge and what we call Recon foam. Recon foam is chips of small foam all glued together and pressed, and with constant use it just unglues and falls apart, so it's not suitable for boxing gloves. So as you may have seen if you look on eBay, it's flooded with all this kind of thing, and they're all from Sialcott. All they have done is basically looked on their website, on the Winning website, copied the picture down on their computer, then copied it on the floor of the room they make the stuff in. They don't know what's inside a Winning glove. They're not going to pay 500 quid and get it shipped to Pakistan to open it up and check it. Some people might be silly enough to do that for them, but this is the standard, the average standard of a glove from Sialcott, Pakistan. So that 995 other factories on average, that's what you're going to get. An absolute load of cock and bull. The other thing they're very good at is making this kind of stuff. Now we know this is Sting. They're made in Pakistan. In fact, I think the guy that owns it, he's of Pakistani heritage at least, from Australia. He's not a boxing person, he's a businessman, so he doesn't know that that is probably the worst kind of glove you can make, because one, it's got this mesh on the inside and it falls apart with the sweat. Two, it's got my favourite liquid moulded foam, the injected foam, which is this, as you can see. That's what's inside there. And what happens with this, with the sweat, we all know that the knuckle punch area just disintegrates, it falls apart. The first thing you notice is little lumps and blisters where all this is falling off, and it gets wedged between the PU in this one's case and the foam. And the longevity of them gloves is less than a year if you're just to keep fitter. So if you're a decent boxer, they're going to fall apart very quickly. So again, that is a typical Sialcott glove. This is another typical Sialcott glove. For some reason they're popular. This is a foam glove, it's not a horsehair glove, and you can see it's pretty shoddily made. It's a genuine Paffin Sport glove, don't get me wrong, and these retail about 175, 180. It's a 20 quid glove. It's cheap leather. It's pretty, I wouldn't say poorly made, but it's just average. It's not a £180 glove, to be honest. I mean, obviously they're trying to recruit the money they've paid British Boxing Board and anybody else they've had to pay for approval. But these are average Sialcott Pakistan gloves. These are someone decided just off their own bat to send us samples. Gadir Industries, if you want to try them for your own brand, you're welcome to, but I wouldn't, because they're absolute tosh. Again, they'd probably be like that inside. I've not opened it up, but I can't, you know, they're not worth opening up. That's supposed to be a 10-ounce fight glove, I think. Excuse me. Now that's never been hit, used or anything, and it wouldn't last 5 minutes, to be honest. So again, this is what you're going to get. You're not going to get this kind of quality on your first, second, third, fourth, fifth try. It's not going to happen. It isn't going to happen. The other thing you will get, apart from ripped off with people like that, is sometimes they'll wear you down. We'll send you free samples, we'll do this, we'll do that. They'll promise you the earth. It's all bull. It's absolute bull. We had a lovely chap saying he wanted to come over here and work for us, and he wanted to do this and that and the other. I thought I'll give him a go just in case. I sent him our old Ultimate 2.0, Ultimate gloves to copy, and he sent them back, and he didn't do a bad job. And I thought, that's not bad, that, do you know what I mean? And then I found out he sold that design to everybody else in the meantime as well. And he said he could make us like good horsehair fight gloves. So I said, go on then, let's have a look. He sent us these. Now on the face of it, they don't look bad. But they are dangerous. They're very hard on the edges and the corners, and there's virtually nothing in them. He did put the boxing boards back, but he's sewn it on Pride and Badge, which is not what you're supposed to do anyway. It's supposed to be a stamp. But there you go. So he's tried his best, he's made them, and I've sent them back, and I've said, they're dangerous. Do not make. And he's actually, as you can see here, he's put on there, Ultimate Horsehair. So that Ultimate glove is not a fight glove, it used to be a sparring glove. We've discontinued it because it was copied everywhere. And so we said, that's it, you've had your chance. We can't work with you. And then I found out he'd been selling our designs to other people. As you can see, this is supposed to be the thumb guard, and it's just an empty piece. Very poorly made. Now, about 6 months later, these gloves were sold on to another company. They put them in for testing with the board, and somehow they passed. Now these are them gloves that I've told people before. You know who made them, you know who ripped me off. We rejected as dangerous. So that, we know exactly, it was my friend at Mr. Messenger who had us over with all that kind of stuff. And I think I've said before about the fight gloves. He gave them to one of the promoters, and on the first show they all fell apart or they were too dangerous, and the promoter approached us for the following shows, including the one they're using tonight, to use our fight gloves, and they've never had a problem. They love them. Usual thing, because they're safe, they're good value, and they perform well. Everyone likes to copy them. Like again, I said to you last week, there's the other way of doing it. We've got these big companies now who are taking pictures of our stuff off the internet and approaching our factory and saying, can you make them with our logo? That's another way we get ripped off. But going back to what I was trying to say, so a lot of our stuff that's made in Pakistan is made at one factory that we deal with. That's it. Like I said, they've expanded, they built a new 3-story building now, so I don't have to worry about taking them off one job to do another. Everything's working perfectly. Our new season delivery's due in the next week or two, so everything will be running smoothly for us. But for those of you who are thinking of getting involved, I'll go on to other English things that we have made is our gum shields. As you know, we don't buy the gum shields. We get offered them from the Pakistani factories. We get offered them again from Chinese specialist mouthguard factories. I've always used one company in the UK. I've never had a problem. I order them every year. Over 25, 26 years we've been working together. UK made in this country. They deliver on time, the prices are good, the quality's perfect. So again, it's it's not going to save me money to buy cheaper ones from Pakistan or China. In fact, in some cases they're more expensive anyway. Then you've got the delays, whereas I can get them within 2 days of the order with you. That's the good thing with UK suppliers generally. They're here next day or within a couple of days. You haven't got to wait that 3 to 4 weeks minimum from the factories abroad. Again, the other thing with factories abroad, including the Selcott ones, when you eventually place that order, you have to pay in full up front, including the shipping cost. So you do that with them. So you're giving a stranger, basically, who you've talked to on the internet messaging, thousands of pounds. Now, if they do send stuff over, and most of the time the quality's hanging, the best way they can give it, the quality's really, really poor, you're trusting them with thousands of pounds. Now, every time I get a delivery, people who work for me, they'll tell you, I'm always disappointed. Not on the stuff that we get all the time. If I change something or renew something or bring out new ideas, it's never what I've asked for. And it's generally down to translation and hit and miss. My factory are the best at what they do. The craftsmen, they don't deal in several other martial arts and clothing and everything else. They specifically make boxing gear. And I'm hard to please. If it's going to have my name on it, I am hard to please. And I'm always disappointed. So just imagine if I was going to start this company now, and I use one of these factories, and the stuff come like that or that, I would be going apoplectic. I'd be having a stroke immediately and looking for a plane flight over to Selcott with a large stick with nails in it. I'm going to beat the fella to death. I couldn't put up with that now, not at my age anyway. So my advice is, leave Selcott well behind if you are a specific boxing company. Now, I've explained the pitfalls and how hard it is to actually get some. If you're happy taking stuff like that and charging the kind of prices that these companies charge, you shouldn't be allowed near boxing anyway. You're just going to be another rip-off merchant as far as I'm concerned. You don't. I mean, being a former boxer and a trainer and a manager, as I keep saying and I keep banging on, safety is paramount in boxing equipment. You don't play boxing, it's a dangerous sport. You can die from boxing. So I am 1000% on safety. Things like this are not safe. They're going to cause injuries, and you should not be allowed near the boxing game if you think they're acceptable for me. These days, when I was boxing, all the trainers, or most of them, they were all ex-boxers. They've been coaches for years, they'd boxed for years, and they coached for years, and they were trying to teach you from their experience on what to do, and mostly what not to do, because they'd learned the pitfalls. Now, people are going to say to me, well, what about Emmanuel Stewart, what about Angelo Dundee, etc.? They've never boxed. You're always going to get anomalies that stick out. Now, Emmanuel Stewart, he did box as an amateur, I believe, so he had an amateur career. Just because he didn't box pro, at least he boxed. And back in them days, there was very little difference between amateur and pro anyway. Even when I was a kid, there was no difference. We used horsehair gloves, no head guards, and you got stuck in for 3 rounds and hope for the best. Mentioning those kind of people, they're in single figures, though, great trainers who hadn't boxed themselves, had they? They're in single figures. And so bringing that subject up is not relevant, really, is it? A lot of fans, boxing fans, they may go to the gym and hit the bag a little bit. They want to get involved in boxing. Now, a lot of them think it's going to make them famous. It doesn't. I'm not famous. I've been in boxing for 50 years now. I've been in pro boxing for 30 years. I'm not famous. I've never made any money out of it, and I probably never will. I don't seek the limelight. I just want my boxers to do well, and if they have a decent career and then they go on to have a good life afterwards, that's what I'm happy about. Those who do well later on in life, that's my goal. That's what I'm happy for. Now, some people think I'll be a cuts man. I'm not experienced enough and I don't want to train them. I want to be involved. I want to get on the telly. I want to be in the corner. I want to be with my heroes. I'll be a cuts man. That is not an easy job. You ain't going to make a fortune on it. If you charge a lot of money, you'll get fired off straight away. People won't want to work with you. You can learn how to bandage hands on YouTube, but it's a work of art. I bandage hands. I have done for 20 odd years. I learnt from the very best, and I don't consider myself one of the best. I don't do a bad job. I never have any complaints. I've never had anybody break a hand or anything yet, so there is that bonus. Cuts, again, I learnt from the best cuts man ever, a guy called Denny Mancini. He taught me to bandage hands as well, him and Colin Moorcroft, another good trainer. So I'm competent with cuts and bandages. Realistically, I'm a head trainer and a head cornerman. If I've got one of my fighters in a championship fight, I'll bring in a trusted cuts man who I know. His name's Mike Jackson, by the way. He's a good man. If you need a good cuts man, Mike's your man. Simply because in a championship fight, if your fighter gets cut and you've got a top class referee and they know you've got a good cuts man, they're going to give you a little bit more leeway. That's that one. A lot of other people, I'll think, I'll go the amateur route and I'll do my amateur coaching courses. Now, there's a lot of amateur boxing coaches who have never boxed. Some get into it because the kids box, and when the kids fall away, they pack it in. Some are very good academically, they pass all the courses and the written work, but they're not good coaches. There is that as well. And another way fans or that kind of people think of getting into the boxing scene is, I'll get my own brand. Now, I've seen a few of them over the years. You'll see this brand, it'll pop up and it'll disappear. It gets on my nerves a little bit because while these little brands pop up, they're taking food out of my mouth and then they're gone. And business goes up and down. You know what I mean? It goes up and down. Whether they're good or they're bad, if you're not committed enough to stick at it through the thick and thin, you're not the right kind of people, are you? When I started this company off, I learnt from working for another company and working with major brands like Everlast, Paffen Sport, Lonsdale, Cleto Reyes. I learnt that side of it before I opened my own brand up. I had a little shop and I opened my own brand up, as you know, if you follow me. And I learnt and I studied to design, used my knowledge of being in the boxing game, you know, and that's how I've progressed over the years. Now, obviously being in business, things go up and down in business as well. We have recessions. I think in about 2006, 2007, the arch lizard himself, Tony Blair, we ended up with a worldwide recession and I lost the premises we had the shop in, so I had to scale it down and we moved it into a room in the gym and online. And then once the recession had passed by and businesses started picking back up, I got a new premises and I opened the shop back up. That's the only way to survive. Now the other thing is, again, where people think being a coach, a cutsman, a trainer, whatever, in the pro game, you're going to make a lot of money. No, you don't. You don't make money. The pro game's the same as the amateur game. You're doing it for the love of the game, that's it. That is it. You're passing on your experience. Although, as a pro trainer, I'm entitled to 10% of my boxer's purse, which is rule number 1 with a boxing board. Up to £10,000, then we can renegotiate. That isn't a lot. When you think you're going to a 12-week camp, Your boxer's going to earn 8 grand, that's 800 quid. You're going to probably spend 1,000 on next season, that's 12 weeks anyway. So you're never going to make a living from being a boxing trainer unless you get that 0.01% where you get a heavyweight champion and he's boxing for millions, and then you're not going to get 10% of his millions. As a manager, I'm entitled to 25% of what is left of that purse when everything else has come out. I don't take a management fee. I look after me boxers. They're not millionaires. I haven't got a world heavyweight champion. I've got a heavyweight bubbling underneath, but again, I don't do that. I'm not in it for the money. The shop is the same. It doesn't pay me wages. I live off other things. I do this shop to keep me sanity. I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy fighting back at the establishment and people who rip ordinary people off. That's why I do this. I don't take a wage from it. I'm never going to be a millionaire. It pays for me. Well, I was going to say it pays for me petrol in my car every day. I've got an electric car now, so it pays for me electric. It's a bit cheaper. It buys me a £4 meal deal every day for me lunch, and that's it really. And I get free clothes. So you're not going to be a millionaire owning a big brand either. They're entrepreneurs who own the big brands, who are driving around in big sporty cars, etc. They'll go bust eventually. It doesn't work that way. So take what I'm saying. If you want to set your own brand, take this for gospel. Now moving on to Alibaba. Now the Alibaba site has all sorts of companies who make boxing gloves, clothing, in fact everything. Not just sporting gear, any business you want to be in, fake Rolex watches, car body kits, it does everything. So you narrow it down to your boxing equipment. Now on Alibaba you've got to be savvy enough to suss out which are actually factories selling and supplying their goods and which are middlemen. There's more middlemen on there who are going to advertise that they get boxing gloves, and they'll give you a price. They'll go, yeah, we'll get these gloves for you. If you buy 10 pairs, they're £70 a pair. If you buy 50 pairs, they're £60. 100 pairs, they're £50. Once you get to 1,000 pairs at a time per order, they're £20 a pair. When you ask for, okay, I'll have 100 pairs of red ones, 25 10 ounce, 25 12 ounce, 25 14 ounce, 25 16 ounce. They'll only do it, the Chinese companies in particular will only do one colour per size per 100-ish, if you're lucky. They have minimum order quantities that are unrealistic. If they're unrealistic, they're generally suppliers, not the factory making them. They'll have unrealistic demands. You will get, again, on Alibaba, you will see a lot of the cheaper, nicer stuff will be pictures of the genuine article, but made in Sialcott. So you'll see lovely winning gloves, lovely Nike boots, everything, but they're just cheap, nasty copies made in Sialcott. Ditch anything from Pakistan straight away. That's my honest opinion. Go into the Chinese companies, it'll tell you where the companies are, or Vietnamese or Cambodian, Taiwan, it'll tell you where they are. Look into the company, make sure it is a factory and that's the factory people you're talking to. Now, most of the factories in China, they're doing synthetic stuff. If you look at Rival, a lot of their stuff is made in China from microfiber synthetic leathers. Fly, again, they do the same thing. Now, if you're buying big enough quantities and don't have loads of mad colours and different sizes and etc., you can get a reasonable deal done. The quality is excellent. I will say that, the Chinese quality is excellent. The likes of the Fly X and stuff like that that's made in China, that is just an average glove. If you buy big enough quantities, you'll get the price down to around £5 or £6 a pair. but you've got to buy them thousands, which I'm sure Fly do. They found a decent supplier that'll supply them at the right price. Again, be wary of suppliers who will show you pictures. The Chinese aren't bothered either. There's no copyright laws there either. They'll show you pictures of certain gloves and they'll just copy them. I've had this with, they've offered me Rivals patterns and they put our logo on. And this is Chinese companies, not just the Pakistani companies. Obviously, no, I'm not interested. Why would I want somebody else's glove with my logo on? I want to be different. I'm honest. My stuff's my stuff. That Rivals is Rivals, Flies is Flies. You don't copy them. That's another thing I will tell you. The only way you're going to make a stand in this sport is to be unique and be different. If you are different, people will stand up and have a look at it. If you're copying somebody else, people will just bin you. You ain't going to make a lot of money that way. Everybody's tried to copy Winning because it's the most successful glove. They're £500 a pair, the genuine ones. So if you're selling something for £200 a pair, it's got to be cost cutted somewhere, hasn't it? So it isn't going to be worth the same, if you get what I'm saying. So that's the Chinese. Excuse me again, it's that time of year we've all got a cold. If you're going down the route of sports clothing, again, the prices will come down with the quantities you buy. Sizing from China, as I've explained before, we use Chinese companies for our clothing now. They're very good. Sizes are fine, quality's fine. Prices and opportunity to make money comes in the amounts you buy. So the minimum order quantity, MOQ, will decide the price bracket you can go in. If you're going to buy 100 pairs, the price is higher than 1,000 pairs of tracksuit bottoms. Remember that. But I do recommend Chinese clothing companies. Now, another clothing area, country that's good, is Turkey. They do really good sports clothing. The materials are good. The materials are more modern, like the Chinese. The prices are quite good. But with Turkey, the MOQ is less, so there's more chance of you making a decent profit. So Turkey is a good place to buy sports clothing. Years ago, it was the original place where a lot of copies were made. Used to get the copied football shirts from Turkey. You know, you get your Manchester United, this year's Manchester United shirt for 20 quid rather than the 80 quid they cost in the shops. Why not have a go? You know what I mean? People do that kind of thing. It is illegal, by the way, but people do that. But Turkey has gone on from doing good copies to doing good home branded gear now, so that is a place to look at also. Also on Alibaba you'll get Thai companies. Now Thai do Thai boxing gear, obviously, and it's very similar. You'll get your lace up and your Velcro gloves, etc. Thai gear is very good quality. The leather's different again. It's generally thicker and drier, the leather. The only thing you have to be careful with Thai boxing gloves is Thai people are generally small people with small hands, so the fitting is tight. That's the warning I'll give you for that. The head guards are small, so always up a size. Generally think of where they're made and the build of the people in that country, and you'll get the size and adjustment. Pricing's generally good in Thailand as well. It's hard to get a good relationship going in Thailand though. You need you really need a middleman there to work that way. So, and if you're more thinking of going down boxing martial arts route, that is good because they do the shins, they do obviously all the martial arts gear as well. So consider that one. Another place you won't find on Alibaba is Mexico. Now Mexico make a decent boxing gear, as you know. Since the internet's opened up, you can deal with a lot of companies in Mexico now. We deal with a couple. I don't deal with Cleto Reyes anymore, although Elizabeth Reyes, lovely person, we're friends. I don't sell anymore because of reasons of contracts, etc. We deal with Campion and Casanova. Same family, two different brands. A lot of these companies will make your brand for you. Casanova won't, because they are what they are. They're a big brand, the original brand. They do their own thing. Beautiful gear, and it's reasonably priced. Some companies, smaller companies, will make good equipment for you. It's not as cheap as Pakistan or China, but the quality is high quality. There's no minimum order quantities. There's a few little companies based in the UK who've done that, and they're doing quite well with it. Again, I think they're fan-based owners, and I'm not seeing much of them about lately, but that is an avenue you can go down as well, the Mexican route. The only problem with the Mexican route is shipping. It costs an absolute fortune shipping from Mexico. That's why we've cut back a little lately. What profit we were making with our Mexican suppliers has been eaten away through shipping costs. So that is another thing you've got to be careful of. There are a few US based manufacturers. Barrick is one. I don't think he'll make stuff for you. He'll sell you his own brand. He's a nice fella. It's all handmade in Texas, I think. There's one or two others. A lot of American brands now are getting manufactured in Pakistan as well. So they've been at it for a long time, and they know reputable, them top 5 Selcott companies, they'll use those. All in all, if you're just starting out and you're thinking you're going to jump into the market and get somewhere below what we do and a few of the other smaller brands, you're throwing money down the drain. It's a long process. My advice is try the China route first. Buy small amounts, as in samples. All these Chinese companies on Alibaba, you can buy samples. You can buy 2 or 3 pairs. Check them out, talk to them, develop a relationship. That's the best way. Develop a relationship. Once you get a bit of trust going, you'll end up with a good relationship, and then you can talk to them about shipping larger amounts over, and then you can fine tune what you do with them. There's more chance of you getting a good relationship with a Chinese supplier than a Selcott supplier. If you want cheap, go to Selcott. Take a chance and do it that way. Like I say, it took me a long time to find a good supplier who's reputable, because the percentage of them being good is very low. So that's the Alibaba route. You can try that. The other thing with Alibaba, what you can buy on Alibaba, you can also buy on Temu. Be careful of that one. The factories will sell seconds to Temu and other similar, is it Shein and places like that. They're local, so they will see what you can buy off Alibaba first, and if it sells, they buy small amounts and push it through. It's like I've said to you in the past, the fly boots, they're made in China. You can buy them on Temu without a brand name on for 20 quid. So if you're trying to produce something and sell it for 160, 170 quid, and then get the same thing on Temu for 20 quid, you're going to struggle. We developed a lovely kind of boots, and we're just getting them up and running. The next thing, they're on Temu for 20, 30 quid. We weren't going to try and sell them for 180, we just wanted a 50, 60 pound pair of boots that everybody could afford, that were good, comfortable and reliable. Next thing, they're on Temu. I approached the factory and I said, why are our boots on Temu? And they come back and they said, the seconds quality that you wouldn't have took, so we sold it to Temu. Well, the customer doesn't know that, do they? So that's another one you've got to be careful of. So find a good reputable factory. Those big brands like Nike and Adidas and people like that, they use the Far East for their stuff. Occasionally these factories do overruns. This has been done for years in the sports clothing industry. Nike will order 100,000 of these, say, hoodies. The factory will make 110,000, not put the logo on the 10,000 and sell them to other people. You put your own logo on. We've had this with the boots. We can buy all the Hyper KO2s, Akamai. We can buy all the Nike range of boots from the Chinese factory without the tick on, and a fraction of the cost. So the same thing can happen to you. What happens to Nike? It's not illegal because it hasn't got their logo on. So what can you do? Be very careful that way. So the Temu side of it, you've got to be careful of. So again, so with Alibaba, my advice is buy small, get samples, try one or two which you get the best relationship with, and go from there. It depends what end of the quality you want. If you want the highest quality, go to the Mexican people. Pay the extra money and you'll have to sell them at that extra cost. There's been a few nice little brands turned up in the UK. There's a lot of them, a lot of them, and they sell the same old tat. A lot of them are martial arts companies, so they'll sell you the PU stuff. They don't care. It's just cheap and cheerful. We're not that. We're safe. We want to be known as the safest, best value for money. You are going to get ripped off sooner or later, or a few times. Like I say, if you can buy it cheap and get it in the UK, do that first of all. It's with you faster. Cheap, taking a chance in gambling, Salcott. If you want to do the hard work and do it properly, China, especially for the clothing, China or Turkey. If you can get a good way into Turkey, which is hard, that is a good place to be for your sports clothing. Failing that, hit and miss, trial and error with Alibaba and China. Yeah, so that's what I'd recommend. If you can do something new, something different, even better. Don't, like I keep banging on, don't copy other people's things. There's only so many ways you can invent a boxing glove, we know that. So I would say try something slightly different to what everybody else does. Make sure it's something simple, it's something easy to use. Or go down the line of, there's people who have been doing things like glove deodorizers, starting that way, that's another way in. Something that's not wholly boxing equipment or wholly sports clothing. Something different. That's the only way you're going to succeed, to be fair. I know this is going to put a lot of people off. It's meant to, so you don't get ripped off. I'm trying to help people out here. It's difficult to start up a new business, and I will say this at the minute, I'm not a lover of our government. They've upset everybody all over the world, and exports are tight at the minute because of the way our lovely government treat people. So it's not a good time to start a new business that way. What you've got to think of is lead times. You're going to bring in stuff from abroad, you're going to pay for it, that money's dead for at least a month until your stuff arrives. Once it arrives here, you've paid for your stuff and your shipping, or it arrives whatever country you're in. Then you've got to pay your country's customs duty and then taxes on top of that. So if something's cost you £50 to be made in a country, by the time you get it here, you've got to have another 20% on shipping. Then on top of that, you've got your customs duty, which could be another 10%. And then whatever taxes your company has on bringing stuff from that country. So that could have cost you £90. If it's cost you £50, it's cost you £90 when it's in your shop. So when it's in your shop, you've got to think of how much you're going to sell it for. So if you're going to double it to make profit, it's £180 straight away. Now, does that product stand up to somebody else's equipment of that cost? That's what you've got to think of. So it isn't as simple as you think of doubling your money and making profit straight away. Then you've got to market it and sell it. So you've got to take those costs out of it as well. So it's not easy. Now, marketing side of it, I'm not great at that. I generally do it because we've been going so long. If you don't know it, it's your own fault. If you're going to buy cheap rubbish from somewhere else, I look at it that way. You've got to pay money to SEO experts and internet experts, which is going to be another £500 a month minimum on that. Then you're going to have to give some of your stuff away to people and sponsorship to get it seen and get it recognised. So again, that's a big loss. So equipment side of stuff is very hard to get up and running. Clothing, not so much, easier. So I would suggest trying that route first. T-shirts, clothing is an easier sell and an easier market opportunity than boxing gloves. Or if you're not into boxing, you want to do hockey or something, again, you've got experts who've been in it a long time who, you know, it's a similar thing. So all in all, it's a gamble. Try sourcing local stuff first. If I was to open a shop, we are the only shop that is run by somebody involved in boxing, or the only brand. There's other shops. Mad Dogs, Wayne there, he's an ex-British champion. He doesn't sell his own brand basically, he sells other brands, which is a good way to start your business off. I did it that way. I sold other brands. I sold Everlast, I sold Rares, I sold Twins, and I built my brand up on the back of those. There's a few amateur boxing coaches have decided, because they get bombarded from Sialcott, that they'd try their own brand, and a lot of them have gone down the pan. So take this as a warning. Like I say, if you go down this route and you sell cheap rubbish at the same price we sell our good stuff, you're doing me a favour. So I'm not trying to put you off. Definitely not that way. Listen to what I've said. If you're in this kind of business, you know sooner or later, I still get ripped off. You're going to get ripped off occasionally. There's as many thieves as there are good people in this world, so consider that. Hope you've liked this one. Been a bit of a change, bit of a long-winded one. If I've missed anything out, ask me. If it's inspired you to try and get your own brand, like I say, remember the pitfalls. There's more pitfalls. There's more pros than cons, or whatever, you know what I mean? It's not as good as you think. Try local supplies before you go abroad, it's cheaper, and good luck if you're going to have a go. I've given other companies advice in the past, and a lot of those companies I've given advice to, they've turned on me. There's a few I've asked for, oh yeah, your brand inspires what I do. Can I borrow that idea of putting the Union Jack on the inner thumb and put our flag? Yeah, and they've put the Irish flag, this certain company. And after helping him out and talking to him, he said he was an MMA specialist and he only wanted MMA gear. Could have put him in touch with somebody, and he bought some of our gloves, and somehow he found out he was making our stuff, and he's had his own boxing gear made by one of the factories we work with, and he's telling everybody now that we're copying his brand. Strange fella. So you can't trust some people, especially in this business. There's too many fraudsters, too many idiots, too many people will turn on you. So I do what I do now. I try and help as many people out as I can and be nice about it. It's your money, you take the choice. Listen to what I've said. You can take my advice, take it or leave it. Same as, keep asking everybody, please like and subscribe, press that thumbs up. That doesn't cost you nothing, it just helps me out to get more recognition on YouTube. I hope you've understood this one. Bit long-winded. If it's helped anybody out, if it's Because like I say, 3 people this week have asked us, or is it worth them doing it? I hope my advice has helped you, and good luck with whatever you want to do, and whatever sport it is, or whichever you want to do, boxing or martial arts or clothing. Clothing's a good one. I hope to see you all next week, and bring a few friends along, and good luck with whatever you're doing, and see you later.